The National Association of Realtors is finally coming unraveled. In a breaking news report, NAR, who previously pledged to defend and appeal a $5 billion verdict, has agreed to pay $418 million in damages to settle the commission lawsuits. Now, the result is as many as 1 million agents could exit real estate. Now, if you haven't been following NAR's legal battles and the ongoing fight over commission reform, I'm going to break it down for you on this video, as well as how this landmark settlement will forever change the way real estate agency works in America. As one of the largest and most powerful trade groups in America, NAR has been able to hang on to an antiquated commission structure for decades longer than it should have, despite major advancements in technology. And finally, NAR can no longer protect its agents from inevitable reform. After numerous debilitating lawsuits, coupled with their president resigning and sexual harassment and other scandals, NAR has finally lost its grip. Many brokerages and agents are disassociating from NAR, and there are even new trade groups surfacing that are promising to provide better support to the million-plus real estate agents nationwide. So let me give a little context to what's happened. The current commission structure in America, set and maintained by NAR, violates antitrust laws in two primary ways. The first issue is with NAR's cooperative compensation rule, also known as the buyer-broker commission rule. This is where the seller is required to set the commission for the buyer-side agent in order to submit a listing to the NAR-affiliated multiple listing service, or MLS. In other words, if you want to list a property for sale on the MLS, you have to put how much the buyer's agent is getting paid. And remember, the seller pays the buyer's commission, not the buyer, which brings up the second issue. Not only does the buyer not decide how much his agent gets paid, the selling agent and buyer's agents conspire to fix the buyer commissions exceptionally high at 2.5% to 3%. And this is where a lot of agents get up in arms and completely miss the point. The argument isn't that a buyer's agent's value isn't worth a 3% commission. The argument is that the commission is fixed and that the buyer's agent doesn't have to negotiate or earn his value, which violates antitrust laws. Think about it. When the buyer's agent representing the buyer does not compete on price for his or her services, it prevents buyer's agents from offering a lower price. And while in theory all commissions are negotiable, in practice they are not, because since the buyer's agent doesn't set his own price, a seller is forced to pay the standard 2.5% to 3%. Otherwise, buyer's agents are dissuaded to show their clients the seller's property. Now, this argument has been going on for years, but finally this past October, a jury agreed that both practices were anti-competitive, and a judge ordered damages of $1.8 billion. Now, after that, more than a dozen copycat cases piled up, all accusing NAR of stifling competition and violating antitrust laws. All along, NAR has defended the rules and requirements it helped create and enforce for decades. It had vowed to appeal a $5.3 billion verdict, but finally NAR threw in the towel and agreed to pay $418 million in damages. But more important, the settlement bans NAR from establishing any sort of rules that would allow a seller's agent to set compensation for a buyer's agent. Additionally, all fields displayed broker compensation on MLSs must be eliminated, and there is a blanket ban on the requirement that agents subscribe to the MLS in the first place in order to offer and accept compensation for their work. Now, the settlement agreement also mandates that MLS participants working with buyers must enter into a written buyer-broker agreement. NAR said that these changes will go into effect in mid-July 2024. So how is this expected to impact the housing market, which makes up 1/5 of the economy? Well, Americans spend about $100 billion a year in real estate commissions. And with this settlement, that number is expected to dip by at least $20 billion up to $50 billion. Now, in a more price-transparent marketplace, buyer-agent commissions will come down through negotiation and comparison shopping. This is going to drastically impact real estate agents. In 2020 and 2021, more than 156,000 people got their real estate licenses, and membership to the National Association of Realtors hit a peak of 1.6 million members in 2022. But now, analysts are predicting a mass departure of 1 million agents leaving the industry. With a slowed housing market, a lot of agents are struggling, and a reduction in commission rates will only increase the pain. To put this in perspective, a recent study came out that half of agents in the country sold one house or no houses at all last year. And with the industry now staring down a massive overhaul, agents are going to leave in droves. So as an investor, how does this impact you and me? Well, when I flip a house, one of the biggest expenses I have to factor in is 5 to 6% commissions to a buyer's and a seller's agent when I sell that property. I mean, honestly, the home selling and buying process is not overly complicated. It will be interesting to see how this is impacted. Now, I'm also curious to see what happens with dual agency. Dual agency, or what I have coined the double dip strategy, is when the listing agent also represents the buyer's agent. Now, as a buyer, I will often offer the listing agent to represent me in the transaction, and in the past, that often resulted in a 3% buyer's agent commission paid by the seller to the listing agent. Now, since the buyer's agent commission isn't fixed, it will need to be negotiated. Maybe I'll offer the listing agent to still represent me, but I pay the buyer side commission. Or maybe the listing agent will still go back to the seller to pay the negotiated buyer side. One thing is certain, the principle remains the same. How do I get listing agents motivated to work with me and bring me leads and do business with me as an ongoing client? You better believe I'll figure that out. I'm going to create a competitive advantage and dominate my markets. Why? Because that's what real entrepreneurs do. They innovate, they pivot. When one door closes, they kick open another door. So if you're a struggling agent considering leaving the market, or maybe you're sitting the sidelines, I want to encourage you to get in the game. Learn how to flip houses, and I'll show you how. Get my 8-week academy, which shows you step-by-step how to create a 6 and even 7-figure income. I'll give it to you for free. Just go to 8weekacademy.com. And finally, I'd love to hear your take on this. How do you think this settlement will impact real estate commission? Leave a comment and let me know, and I'll see you on the next video.